Well, hello. Good morning. Welcome to part 6 of my... I had something to eat and it was still on my face. Welcome to part 6 of my story. I'm changing it up. We're not going to have any reflections or Hunger Games for this portion for this Saturday, July 4th. And so I just wanted to go ahead and post and just kind of share part 6. We're closing in on my story, and so today I kind of wanted to focus more on my actual call into ministry and just how that all came to be. And then I want to focus on what it's been tomorrow with it. I'm filming this actually on Friday, but with tomorrow being Sunday, I wanted to talk a little bit more about specifically what my call to David's has been like. And so that's going to be held off until tomorrow. But today, I wanted to focus in on just the call. So everything that has happened in my life is really, all the good and all the bad has culminated into who I am today. And I believe that strongly. I am thankful for the good and the bad that has happened in my life, as all of us should be, because the good and the bad work together. You can't have one without the other sometimes. It's just like on the movie Inside Out. You have to have sadness and joy to be whole, to be a person. So I don't know where I was going with that, but I think you understand what I'm trying to say. So anyway, so yesterday I talked a lot about what it was like going to Nexus, and it was like coming home to a home I had never known before, finding a love that I had never known before. I had never known that kind of love from God, from people even. Just that love of your whole person, and it was just, there's truly nothing like it. And so coming to Nexus was a big part of my journey. So as I told you, I got my initial call into ministry when I was a freshman in college. I was going to UC, University of Cincinnati, and I was going to become a vet. And I just had this overwhelming feeling that I need to do something else, that being a vet was not what God wanted for me. And I legit kind of looked at it as a burning bush moment. But being in a more conservative fundamentalist church, women weren't allowed to have a voice. So my call into ministry there was a limit to what I could do. And so I didn't really, I still felt called, but as a woman, I kind of felt called to be a Sunday school teacher maybe, or a missionary, because as I've said before, my church didn't allow women ministers, but if you went to another country, you could preach. So yeah, that made a lot of sense. So anyway, I went to Nexus, and everything, that was just an eye-opening experience for me. Realizing that I am so loved by God, and that I've always been loved by God, and recognizing and really reconciling you can be gay and Christian. And that was all part of my coming out journey. And one of the first things I did when I was at Nexus, I got into ministry there. I helped with the Sunday school program there. And then one of the big things that led to my full call, led to my call to come to fruition, was I decided to start a ministry. I decided to start a support group for LGBT Christians, LGBT plus Christians. And that was my first thing that I did with adults. And it was an adult ministry. And that was what really led me to realize, man, this is what I want to do with my life. I want to be there for people. I want to walk along with them in their journey. And I went through a little bit of a period of trying to figure out what I want to do. What's the perfect thing for me to do? At first I thought maybe a counselor. So I was going to go back to school to get like I don't even know, some kind of degree. But then it just kind of hit me, and being at Nexus helped all this. I want to be a pastor. And initially I said, I'll be a youth pastor. But then it all came to, that first year when I went to, I don't know where I was thinking. I was like, when I go to seminary to be a youth pastor, and that was what I initially thought. Say hi, Lemmy. So I went to, I remember meeting with some people from our association, Sanka, through the United Church of Christ. I met with Mike, who was the pastor at Nexus, and he really journeyed with me through the process of becoming ordained. And I do thank Nexus for really being the reason that I got my full call to become a pastor. I mean, being a pastor and being a woman was just so unheard of growing up. I was breaking a glass ceiling I like to think that Nexus gave me the hammer to break the glass ceiling. And I realized, man, I can be a pastor. And so the whole journey was difficult at times because I was going to seminary full time. I was working still full time for at least that first year, 2 years of seminary. And I appreciate my wife so much because she supported me. Because I was working full time at a daycare, and then I quit to finish up seminary so I could work at a church, like very part time, while I was still going to seminary full time. And my wife was just super supportive of me. And those 3 years were tough. There were times when I wanted to give up. But I kept pushing forward. I kept moving forward. And I remember my song of choice was a song by Gloria Estefan called Reach. If you could reach higher. And I actually had it played at my ordination ceremony, service. And every time I would feel discouraged, I would listen to that song. I would listen to Whitney Houston's song, Step by Step. And there was just all these different songs I would listen to motivate me because it was a really grueling journey at times. But then I made it through, I even did, I worked part-time at a church in Cincinnati. I was a seminary intern, and that was a wonderful experience. I got to preach several times. I got to even kind of lead the church while the pastor went away. And that church even went through an open and affirming process, started to go through oh my gosh, my dog sheds. Look at all that hair. I was just petting her, and she just shed all that. Anyway, they went through an open and affirming process after I'd left and we started the conversation, and they voted to become open and affirming after I left. But just all the stuff that I did there, I was just so excited. I was so excited to become a pastor. And I remember May of 2014 was when I graduated from seminary, one of the best days of my life, because I remember walking across that stage and knowing that all the hard work just was worth it all. And I so remember, Cedarville's graduation compared nothing to the graduation from seminary, mostly because Cedarville was not an excellent experience, was not a positive experience for me. But graduating from United Theological Seminary, where I went to seminary, it was just one of those moments. And then during that summer before I started at David's, I did a unit of chaplain CPE, clinical pastoral education, kind of like a chaplain at Christ Hospital in Cincinnati. And that kind of just confirmed that I want to be a pastor. I give props to people who are chaplains, big props, because that is hard work. And so I remember, this is what I remember, because becoming ordained was a little bit of a process, because I had to write an ordination paper, and that took some time, because that was, I think, like 20-30 pages long, maybe close to 30, and then I had to defend it. I remember we had my ecclesiastical council in